Bindi Irwin revealed she was battling endometriosis. Now she is dealing with that and another health scare, a ruptured appendix.
For years, the world believed it knew Bindi Irwin. She was the cheerful little girl in khaki, standing beside Steve Irwin and carrying on his legacy. But as she grew older, something changed. The little girl millions knew as the Crocodile Hunter's daughter slowly became someone else entirely, and many people didn't understand why. And while the public argued over her changing looks and her growing independence, Bindi was quietly fighting a war on three fronts: a grieving family, a media machine that wouldn't let her grow up, and a disease that was eating away her body in silence. So what really happened to Bindi Irwin? To understand her transformation, we have to go back to the beginning. Living under a legendary name. Born on July 24, 1998, in Bindi, Queensland, Bindi Sue Irwin grew up inside a world most children only see in movies. While other kids were on swing sets, she was on the grounds of Australia Zoo, surrounded by crocodiles, cameras, and a father the entire planet knew as the Crocodile Hunter. Steve Irwin named his daughter after his favorite saltwater crocodile, Bindi, an Aboriginal word meaning young girl. Her middle name came from Suey, the family's dog. At just 2 years old, she made her first television appearance on the Crocodile Hunter, standing beside her father as if the wild was simply the family living room. She never went to a conventional school. Her classroom was the zoo itself, and her curriculum was wildlife, conservation, and without anyone realizing it yet, how to perform in front of a camera. Then came September 4th, 2006. Steve Irwin was filming Ocean's Deadliest when a stingray barb pierced his chest. He died within minutes. At the time, Bindi Irwin was 8 years old. Just 16 days later, she stood in the Crocodile in front of a memorial crowd broadcast live to hundreds of millions of people worldwide, and delivered a tribute to her father without a single note. An 8-year-old composed in front of the whole world, promising to continue the work his father started. It was the moment the public fell in love with her. It was also the moment her childhood quietly ended, when fame turned against her. As Bindi grew older, she wanted to make her own choices. But to the rest of the world, she was still Steve Irwin's daughter. And every decision she made would be compared to the legacy her father left behind. The first major test came in March 2014. At just 15 years old, Bindi partnered with SeaWorld on a youth conservation initiative called Generation Nature, a program designed to inspire children to care about wildlife. But the timing could not have been worse. The documentary Blackfish had recently exposed the treatment of captive orcas, and public opinion had turned sharply against SeaWorld. Almost overnight, critics accused Bindi of betraying everything her father had stood for. And that was only the beginning. In the fall of 2015, 17-year-old Bindi joined season 21 of Dancing with the Stars, where she was paired with professional dancer Derek Hough. It was an opportunity unlike anything she'd ever done before. Before she could even compete, a Los Angeles court reportedly required legal proof of Steve Irwin's death to finalize her contract. Nearly a decade after losing her father, his death was still shaping her life in unexpected ways. Even so, Bindi refused to let it stop her. To prepare for the competition, she transformed herself in a way the public had never seen before. The khaki clothes were gone. In their place were sparkling dresses, high heels, and a confident young woman. Some fans loved the change, while others felt she had left behind the image they wanted her to keep forever. But Bindi kept going. Week after week, she impressed both the judges and the audience. Then, on November 24, 2015, she and Derek Hough were crowned champions. For the first time, Bindi had proven she could step outside the world everyone had built around her and succeed on her own. But becoming her own person didn't make the scrutiny disappear. It simply took on a different form. Building her own life. In 2013, an American wakeboarder named Chandler Powell visited Australia Zoo. What started as a chance meeting between two people who shared a love of wildlife and the outdoors slowly turned into a close friendship, and before long, that friendship became love. 6 years later, on Bindi's 21st birthday, July 24, 2019, Chandler got down on one knee and proposed. She happily said yes. It looked like the perfect new beginning. Their wedding was planned for March 25, 2020 at Australia Zoo. But just hours before the ceremony, Australia announced emergency COVID-19 lockdowns. Instead of the celebration they had spent months planning, Bindi and Chandler married in a small private ceremony with only a few family members by their side. 1 year later, on March 25, 2021, the couple welcomed their daughter, Grace Warrior Irwin Powell. Her middle name, Warrior, honored the wildlife warrior's mission that Steve had dedicated his life to. For a moment, life finally seemed peaceful, but it didn't last. After giving birth, Bindi faced harsh comments about her body. Then, on Father's Day in June 2021, she revealed something the public had never fully understood. Her grandfather, Bob Irwin, had been out of contact with the family for years, returning letters and refusing gifts. The revelation shocked many fans and shattered the image of a family that had always seemed united. But while the public focused on all this family drama, a much more serious battle had been unfolding behind the scenes for years, and it had started when she was just 14 years old. The hidden battle. In 2012, when Bindi was just 14 years old, she began suffering from severe cramping, extreme exhaustion, and constant nausea. Doctor after doctor told her it was stress or simply a normal part of growing up. But the pain never went away. Over the next 10 years, she underwent MRIs, ultrasounds, and CT scans. Every result came back normal, yet the pain kept getting worse, leaving her with no diagnosis and no answers. Then, life brought an even bigger challenge. After becoming pregnant with Grace in 2020, the pain became almost unbearable. It would strike so suddenly and so intensely that Bindi often feared she was having a miscarriage. After nearly a decade of being told nothing was wrong, Bindi finally decided to take this matter to a new specialist. In March 2023, she traveled nearly 10,000 miles from Australia to New York to meet renowned endometriosis surgeon Dr. Tamer Sekin. It was there that she finally got the answers she had spent nearly a decade searching for. During surgery, doctors discovered 37 endometriosis lesions throughout her pelvis, along with a hidden chocolate cyst that years of scans had completely missed. After the operation, her surgeon admitted he was amazed she had been able to function with so much internal damage. For Bindi, it was heartbreaking, but also a huge relief. She finally knew her pain had been real all along. On March 7, 2023, she shared her diagnosis publicly for the first time. Posting a photo from her hospital bed, she said she hoped her story would help other women whose pain had been ignored or dismissed, just as hers had been for years. It felt like the worst was finally behind her, but life had one more setback in store. One final test. By May 2025, Bindi believed the worst of her health battle was finally behind her. She was preparing to attend the annual Steve Irwin Gala in Las Vegas. But just before the event, everything changed. She was rushed to the hospital with severe abdominal pain, where doctors discovered her appendix had become dangerously inflamed and needed emergency surgery. As they operated, they found even more problems. Surgeons removed 14 additional endometriosis lesions that had gone undetected and repaired a hernia caused by childbirth. Instead of standing on stage to honor her father's legacy, Bindi spent the evening recovering in a hospital bed, facing yet another challenge she never saw coming. By the end of both surgeries, doctors had removed more than 50 endometriosis lesions from her body. For the first time since she was 14 years old, Bindi was finally free from the constant pain that had shaped so much of her life. It wasn't just the end of a medical battle. It was the beginning of a life she had been waiting more than a decade to experience. Today, she plays a bigger role than ever at Australia Zoo, working alongside her mother, Terry, and her brother, Robert. She also helps oversee projects like the Crocodile Hunter Lodge while raising her daughter, Grace Warrior, with the same love and respect for wildlife that Steve Irwin passed on to her. Today, Bindi's life isn't defined by pain anymore, but she hasn't stopped speaking about it. Since revealing her diagnosis in 2023, she has used her platform to speak openly about endometriosis and the importance of listening to women whose pain is too often dismissed as normal. By sharing her own story, she hopes others won't have to wait years for the answers she fought so hard to find. So, which part of Bindi Irwin's journey surprised you the most? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.